On the program today, we do a follow-up on the multi-facility economic zones in Zambia. How are they operating and what are the benefits that are coming out of these zones? And the Zambia Co-operative Federation says that government should revisit the program of the farmer support input. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Business Day and I am Judy Ngulube. We start off the show talking about the multi-facility economic zones in Zambia. Now, these zones are basically a government program introduced in 2005 by the Japanese government through the Japan International Cooperation Agency, which is JICA. The aim is to create a platform for Zambia to achieve economic development by attracting significant domestic and foreign direct investment through a strengthening policy and legislative environment. The initiative emphasizes on political will and integrity, private sector hypening, as well as integrity and civil service efficiency and integrity as key forces that enable the economy to attain accelerated economic development. The implementation of M-Phases in Zambia is designed to make Zambia competitive through increased capacity in the trade and manufacturing sectors, which have numerous positive spillover effects in other sectors such as utilities, transport, agriculture, and other services. The ministry has to date declared 6 areas as emphasis, and these are in Chambeshi, Lusaka East, Lusaka South, Lumwana, and Ndola, as well as Roma Industrial Parks. With these areas segmented specifically for FDI investment, growth, and development, just to aid Zambia in this industrialization process, we did catch up with Brian Chico Mwinga, who is the acting executive director for the Center Trade for Policy Development. We just spoke to him to find out what exactly is the latest in terms of the M-Phases, which ones have finished, which ones are breeding, what was its initial purpose, and how is it aiding trade amongst Zambians as well as foreign multinationals.
Invest a lot of time in doing research, and we engage with the government in terms of policies, what we think can work for Zambia. And I think in the area of maybe industrialization and manufacturing, we commend the government for coming out boldly that they want to industrialize Zambia so that we can have a competitive advantage in this area. And I think one of the things that we did in the year 2018 was to just evaluate how these multi-facility economic zones have performed, because that's one of the ways that the government envisaged to improve the manufacturing sector. But I think the Chinese run zones, that's the Lusaka East and the Chambeshi one, are doing far much better than the Lusaka South multi-facility economic zones. I think in terms of the attraction of investors into the zones, it has been quite slow. And part of the reason was because of the removal of incentives, which just tried to, I think, stifle what was in the pipeline already. I think what attracts investors into Zambia, it's the conditions that we give them. And incentives were one of the baits that we wanted to have these investors come into the country. But with the government announcing the removal of those incentives, it also discouraged some of the investors who would have loved to come and invest into the zones.
And how are locals? Are locals investing in these zones?
Yeah, I think there are about 2 or 3 companies in the Lusaka South multi-facility economic zone who are doing a good job this far. I think there's Roland Imperial Tobacco. I think it's shining example there. So they're doing fine. But in the other 2 zones, I think they're mostly dominated by Chinese companies.
Okay.
So we
could safely say the growth is slow, or is it the investment growth is slow?
I think the investment has been slow because the pipeline investments that were supposed to trickle into the zones, actually they held back because of the fiscal incentives that were removed, which were ideally supposed to be an attraction to them.
Okay. You're watching Business Day. The agriculture sector is one of the sectors that has been spoken of from a while back in terms of diversifying Zambia's economy from copper production into agriculture as well as tourism. But zeroing in onto tourism, there's been a lot of talk about diversification as just highlighted in the 2019 national budget. And the 2019 national budget is another document, financial document, that has spoken and emphasized on austerity measures for Zambia to grow its economy as expected this year. But with these austerity measures and the ever increasing prices and production costs for the agriculture sector, how are farmers going to make sure that their produce has got a market, their produce has got the costs of reproducing actually catered for? We did catch up with Mr. James Chirwa, the Director General of the Zambia Co-operative Federation, who says that for for curbing production costs, effectiveness is an answer to maximize on how farmers can actually get the most out of their produce.
We are underproducing as a country. That's what you must understand. That piece of land, 1 hectare, can give you about 15 tons of maize. 15 tons of maize is talking about, that's 15 times 20. That's 300 bags, okay? But I'll tell you that we are producing 2 tons on that same hectare. That's the average production in Zambia. It's 2 tons to 2.4 from that hectare. So we need to do with the issue of productivity. Once you address the issue of productivity, then the costs will not be the issue. Mass production has got a bearing on the overall cost of production, because once you divide the total that you have produced into the cost, you find that the unit cost would have reduced. The cost per unit would have reduced. So you'd have overcome the burden of costs by overproducing. You must produce to full capacity for you to benefit from this agricultural production or any other production for that matter. So costs are always a problem if you are underproducing, where capacity is there for you to produce more, but you are underproducing using the same kind of inputs. You are producing 20 bags. Instead of that, when the actual inputs can give you 200 bags, but you are producing 20 bags. So it means the unit cost per bag of whatever you are producing will be higher than the person who has produced 200.
Is your organization putting in some deliberate measures to sensitize farmers on such information so that they apply it? And sometimes it's a matter of not having the information and data.
No, I think it's the mindset of people. We are trying our best to change the way people think, the way we do things. We must change the way we do things. Our minds are locked to to things that will not help us develop. And so, from our point of view, we are doing everything possible to get this information to farmers that, look, for you who are in farming, you need to up your production. And for you to up your production, you must practice the good farming techniques and methods, so that you even know how to manage your farm, how to maintain your crop, how to space your crops, and things like that. And how to apply correctly the chemicals or fertilizers that you are applying on your piece of land, so that you get the maximum yield from that production. We are doing all that.
Mr. James Chirwa did also talk about revisiting the Farmer Support Input Program as one of those recommendations to government to make sure that the agriculture sector gets what it can, maximizing and also contributing to the agriculture sector as a whole towards Zambia's economy.
I still feel sad that we are not looking at the issue of farmer input support program seriously. The intention of this program was very good, and it was for targeting the vulnerable but viable farmers. Now, the idea was to move the small-scale farmers from being vulnerable, remove the vulnerable, so that we infuse viability and they become medium-scale farmers. But that idea has not been attained. It's not been achieved. We've been spending money on farmer input support program from 2001 up to today. That's about 18 years, if not 19 itself, 19 years. We've been spending money, but it's not giving us the production that we anticipated, or it's not giving us the growth that we anticipated.
Is it time to change the strategy?
We need to remodel the farmer input support program so that it brings in some element of motivation. In its current form, there is no motivation to grow. So there has to be something that we need to do to make that farmer input motivate someone to have the desire to produce more. And one of the things that we are saying is that it is not making sense, if we are talking about austerity measures, it's not making sense to spend on input and you also spend on output. You understand? In this, I'm trying to talk about the FISP, where a farmer is contributing 400 kwacha, and government is taking the burden of the rest of the bill of inputs. And at the same time, government is actually buying the commodities from the same farmer who are supported at 100% of the price. You understand?
He also did pass a comment on how austerity measures can move hand in hand with industrialization, with industries that are needed if put in place.
There's an issue of diversification. People are being told to diversify. But what you should know is that everything that we do depends on something. Diversification does not come through pronouncements. You cannot expect a farmer to diversify in the production of various other commodities or crops just because you have told him. That's not how it works. Diversification must be ignited by certain factors to be present. And these factors, one of them is market. And market can be provided through industrialization. You know, if I'm going to diversify and I start growing, say, cassava, or this other crop, or this other crop, or the other crop, where is the off-taker of these commodities?
IDC.
No, IDC, yes. Now, IDC comes in by way of promoting industrialization, because it's the industry. Once you create industries, these will be the off-takers of the commodities that people are diversifying, growing, as opposed to growing maize, monolistic, of having maize as a main crop. When people are growing these other crops, say cassava, there has to be an industry. Is it textile? Is it medical? Is it pharmaceutical? Is it this? That is going to be planted in a certain place where cassava is being grown. That will be the off-taker of the production.
Thank you so much for still watching Business Day. Lusaka is the capital city of Zambia with 2.5 million residents in Lusaka, growing economy in this capital city slowly becoming cosmopolitan. This also means that many trends that are on a global scale are happening in Lusaka. Male grooming is one of those trends that is catching up in Lusaka, capital city of Zambia. And this has posed an opportunity for Spurs and other businesses as well as increased employment. We did catch up with people involved in this business, and this is what they had to say.
It's very interesting, Judy. We've noticed that during the last few years, the men are really taking care of themselves. You know, they're really going into areas of grooming themselves, wellness, and just simply wanting to look good. You know, the trend where the men were all macho and greasy seems to be a thing of the past, and we've been seeing it as people that actually deal in grooming men. What it is when the concept came up, we looked at what's happening in Lusaka, and there are so many saloons and facilities where the women can go and look good, do some procedures and look good, but there was nothing for the men. So we decided to put something together for the men and have a place where they can come and get the same services that the ladies get at the saloon. The difference is that when the men come to do their pedicure and the manicure, they just come and do the services and pay. There's always this difference with the women and the men. So the men mean business. They come in, cut their hair, do their pedicure, manicure, and pay and go. And we've seen that actually they are putting a lot of value on the way they look. So they are spending on these services. Our business is a wellness business, and we are catering for the men that are productive, the men that are in the marketplace. And if I can mention, Judy, you've seen lately that we see a lot of men are collapsing, having strokes, and so forth and so on. That is one reason why a place like this is important, because that will keep on help them to keep healthy and working and contributing to the economy. Because you see, wealth creation is all about a healthy person. And the stress that is there out there, Judy, right now, the men have to hit the ground running, they have to be so competitive, and we believe that our business is helping. You could look at it as a luxury, but what it is now is a necessity. It's like you need to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, like I've said, you'll drop dead. So it is a necessity, no longer a luxury, and that can be reflected even in the prices. It's not that expensive anymore, because when the market research was being done and we were asking people, we want to start this thing that will be exclusive for men. They were like, oh, men can't spend on facials. But we've seen that it's been very, very good. The response has been very good. In terms of it being a business, I would say it's the business of the future, the present and the future, because I can see this business growing, because most of the young generation are appreciating it. They are appreciating it. So it's a business that's going to grow. It's worldwide, actually. It's becoming like a mainstream kind of business right now. And one thing I would just like to encourage the men is that please do take care of yourselves, because those projects you are running around for, you can't do them when you drop. So you need to take care of yourself, listen to your body, take time to relax, do pedicure, manicure, have a good haircut, tint your hair, and get healthy back into the market. The modern world out there, people are using their talents. They are using their talents, and I can see more and more people allowing their children to use their talents, whichever way. It could be art, it could be hairdressing, it could be dress designing, anything. I can see the young generation now is really coming out and doing those things. And maybe I would say that's one thing we missed before, because we were not encouraging the young people to do those things. We were more into academics. But now I can see that really coming up, and it's a good thing. If you just look here at the grooming lounge, there are about 20 young people working here. Using their talents, using their creativity. If that wasn't there, they wouldn't have a job.
It's good to know that other sectors of the economy are benefiting from those businesses that were not seen as very key sometime back in Zambia. That is all we had for you on Business Day. Thank you so much for joining us. Join us next week, Thursday, 19:30, for more business information. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Judy Ngulube.